Just want to make sure Shannon records. Awesome. We're going to be covering tonight, will you cut your commission, and some ways to handle objections. It's webinar 3. It's one of my favorite webinars, and especially in light of the recent change that everybody got to experience on October 1st. Just some latest numbers before we get started here. Just checked, there are 8 listings right now that are bold sellers who are offering 0% commission. But 8 out of all of the listings that we operate with is not bad. In fact, I don't think a lot of sellers are taking advantage of the Seattle Times and actually offering us not to pay us. I think that that was a non-starter for many sellers when they started looking at the news articles and the news media. So we are not seeing a lot of that. Generally speaking, I expect more sellers may want to negotiate, and so therefore we are going to cover some strategies on how to deal with those conversations, not only for buyers but sellers as well. So many of you have experienced some challenges as you have been working with our buyers or with our sellers, and so tonight we're going to cover some strategies on how to deal with that. So if you go to the next slide, Shannon, that would be great. How to handle an objection. So some people get really terrified when they think of an objection. Oh my gosh, I'm a newer broker, or maybe I don't know, I haven't experienced the MLS allowing, commission to be at 0%. A lot of times the objection is not seen in the right light. Really what the objection is in a way that other party to ask another question. So in order to deal with an objection, what seems like so difficult or maybe frightening for some of you, really see an objection as what it really is, which is an opportunity for you to ask another question to that buyer or to that seller. Most objections can be dealt with very simply if you're prepared, if you have the right body language and the right tone and how you handle that objection. And you've got to be in the business mindset to be able to make the right decisions and knowing how to handle what strategy would be the best in order to handle the objection. I encounter objections all the time. That's part of negotiation. And so the best people that handle objections really know how to ask the right questions. Next slide, please. 70% of the consumers will pay more if they perceive greater value, and 30% will go for the deep discount. So we've had this debate even in our office with the employees that I have, the assistants, and I have some employees that thought, oh my gosh, I would be one of those people that would offer to pay 0%. So I even have employees that think like in the 30% deep discount type of mindset. So I guess what I'm trying to point out is that there will always be people who are wanting to get to have a discount. And there will always be people that perceive greater value that don't ask for the discount. And we've been trying this out for the last 20 years, really, in this industry. And there will always be a segment of the population who would thrive off of a rebate or money back at closing or that type of deep discount. The majority of people want to have a service-oriented professional represent them, either on the buy side or the sell side. It doesn't really matter. So the 3 top tips that I want to give you guys was from a survey that we did on the West Coast with brokerage firms in Washington, Oregon, and California. And we did this in some other independent brokerage firms that I have relationships with as we do referrals. And here are the top 3 tips from the top producers of the agents who do not give away their commission. Number 1, you need to stop volunteering to cut. So I think when you go into the situation where you're trying to put pen to paper and get a buyer or a seller to sign a contract, whether it be a buyer agency contract or a listing contract, instead of placing an amount already in there, like say, for example, I was going into a listing appointment and I just automatically volunteering to cut means you actually fill out the paperwork with that cut. Stop volunteering to reduce your commission. Offer what you offer and be firm about that, and stop volunteering to cut your commission before you even get to the negotiation table. So that would be tip number 1 is, when you meet with them, don't say, oh, I know you're meeting with other people, so I'm going to go ahead and discount my commission to match. The top producers on the West Coast do not volunteer to cut their commission. Number one tip. Number two, write your rate on the pre-listing packages and on all forms. So if you don't have your buyer agency agreements at this point filled in with the 3%, or if you're going to do some sort of retainer that's built into your contract, stop volunteering. And then number two, have your paperwork ready to go and on all of your forms. So on your listing agreement, don't ever go out to a listing appointment with your with a blank listing agreement or a blank 1A. Always have the amount or the total commission already on the agreement. That will alleviate some of that volunteering that may be happening or that you may be doing already in your business practice. But it also will allow for less negotiation when it comes to your commission or your rates. Number three, the tip that they gave us is make the decision to adjust in the negotiation. So we're going to talk about some of those tips and strategies that I've obtained from some top producers in tonight's call. Let's go to the buyer page. I think a lot of these, Shannon, if you could just change the Word document. These are some of the top objections that we're hearing right now from buyers. And a lot of these can be overcome by just asking more questions. Really, like I said before, an objection is an opportunity to ask more questions. So those of you who are newer, you gotta start writing down and not getting stumped by these objections, because really all they are is smoke screens, especially the one number one. When somebody says, I'm just browsing, I'm just looking, it's no different if I was going into Nordstrom's and I just told them I'm just browsing or I'm just looking for a dress. I mean, they just need to ask more questions. You know, what event will you be going to? Is it business or is it casual? You know, they'll ask more questions. So just like you were shopping and somebody who says, I'm just browsing, that's an opportunity for you to ask more questions. So if you're newer to the business, a lot of these are just smoke screens. I'm working with another broker. I want to be very clear that a lot of you are getting this and you're not asking the right question. The number one thing I would do if somebody said, I'm working with another broker, here's exactly the question I would say. Have you signed a buyer agency agreement with that other broker? And if they don't know, schedule a time to meet with them. Okay, thank you, Shannon, for taking notes too. Wow, I've got a very good assistant. The next thing, if you don't have, you know, if they don't have not signed, then you're not stepping on anyone's toes, and you can set up in a time to meet with them and to go over your value proposition and ask more questions in person. But you can start, if they answer, yes, I'm working with another broker, or yes, I've signed with another agent. We have had a few brokers who are definitely not stepping on anybody's toes and just saying, well, I respect the agency relationship and I would highly recommend you talk with that other agent. And if you're not happy, you know, certainly once you're not in a contract, I'd be happy to work with you. But if you've signed an agreement with that other agent, I respect agency agreements and I wish you the very best of luck. Do not step on other agents' toes. You could get yourself into a lot of trouble. If they don't know, you need to find out if they've had a buyer agency agreement and they're coming to you, soliciting you on their own, then you need to get to, they think they signed something, confirm that they have signed something with that other broker, because you don't want them having to pay a double commission. If they say, I'm not interested at this time, you could ask them a follow-up question. When would be a good time to follow up with you? Okay, so that would be how you would ask another question. So don't let this objection be a stumbling block where you hang up the phone and you move on to the next person. Many of these are just smoke screens. They're waiting for you to ask another question. And so you want to really keep it open-ended as much as possible. We want to save money by doing it ourselves. Again, you know, you ask another questions. I totally respect that. What type of things do you need to help assist you in that process? Many times they start off thinking they can do it by themselves, and they realize really quickly that there's a lot that goes into setting up those appointments with those sellers and finding out how to negotiate and get in to see them and to negotiate repairs. You can provide them with more information and stay in touch with them, albeit you may want to not, if they say, we're going to do it by ourselves, you know, I get that, but there's a lot that goes into it. So you just educate more about wanting to do it themselves. I've never heard of Best Choice Realty before. That's surprising that people still give that objection to our agents. We are one of the top real estate brokerages in the Puget Sound region. Tell them that. And we have over 300 brokers that service all areas of the Puget Sound. Maybe you haven't seen our signs. What type of broker are you looking for? And just kind of lead it, just take it as a smokescreen. They just want to have conversation. Most people are just looking for a way to get you off the phone, but if you ask more questions and you ask more about them, what type of agent are you looking for? What type of real estate company are you looking for? Is it only about the firm, or is it about the agent that you're most interested about? And a lot of them is not about the firm. It's about you guys. It's about what service you deliver and how you're able to save them time and money. I've never heard, is that important to you? That might be a question. I've never heard of Best Choice Realty before. The way I've dealt with that, is that really important to you? Or is the agent more important in identifying the right agent to work with you? And then there's 6, 7, and 8. Those are all smoke screens. If they've already purchased or already sold, it's a missed opportunity. That has happened to me where I've gone through some of my past clients and they already bought or they already listed with somebody. Shame on me for not staying in contact and following up with them. Those sometimes, unfortunately, you have to win it on the referral or ask them if they know of anybody. Really, all of these are objections that are smoke screens. I wasn't happy with my last real estate agent. Well, tell me what you are looking for in a real estate. Yeah, you muted me. See, there you go. So those are, if you want to have a list of the top 10, I'd be happy to send this to you so you can start typing your own objections and how you handle it. But the best way to do it is just to practice. And so for those of you who are newer to the business, you're going to want to list out what you hear currently on the phone, or when you get that resistant or that uncomfortable feeling when you're making phone calls, and then just start practicing like I have here with Shannon and just talking through it and realizing that really what you need to uncover is asking the client more questions. And if you can guide that process, you're going to uncover a lot more and overcome most of the objections that they throw at you and get them to a point where it's a conversation. And that's the place to be, and then get in front of them as much as possible. Let's go to the next slide. Shannon, if you go back to the PowerPoint, that would be great. If you want that list of top 10 things, just send me a quick email. I'll be happy to send that to you real quick. But as far as the scripting goes, I wanted to spend some time with you guys because a lot of you are having still some discounting issues and knowing what to say when you're in the moment and you're working with a seller. I've got some scripts here on the screen. If you can, let me move this over here, Shannon. There we go. So script number 1, this is again somebody that says, Rochelle, will you discount your listing commission? Will you do it at 2.5%, or will you do it at 2%? This is somebody who wants to debate me. So this is a script to handle somebody who wants to just point blank ask me if I want to discount my commission. You really want to internalize it. Really let them know that you're listening. I understand where you're coming from, Shannon. I'm not willing to adjust my commission at this time. However, if it makes sense during the negotiations, I'd be happy to chip in. I'm a strong agent. I'm a strong negotiator. Let me fight for you to get what you want and what I deserve as we work together to make this happen. And again, a roundabout way I've used this probably the most in my negotiation when somebody asked me. In fact, my close friend and neighbor, I've used him he's a tough negotiator. He's the UW professor at the UW Tacoma, who's a personal friend and close client and used to be a neighbor of mine. When I listed his home, he was point blank asked me, and I had to have my objection and my script down pat. Luckily, I had been coached, and I used script number 1 on him, and it worked like a charm. So I had my agreement all filled out, but before he signed it, he wanted to see if he could get me to reduce my commission. And so I understand where he's coming from. I'm not willing to adjust my commission at this time, is what I said to him. However, if it makes sense during the negotiations, I'd be happy to chip in. And it did actually make sense to chip in when we got to the inspection and they were asking questions about chipping in, I think on a furnace service that I had to chip in on, and then something else. I think it was some inspector that had to do a further inspection on the crawl space. I think I chipped in on that. So there were 2 instances totaling, I think it was only $560 between it came to the pest guy that had to go under and look at the crawl space, and then the furnace servicing. I don't think it cost more than $500. If I would have volunteered to reduce my commission, my potential seller would have probably got the greater negotiation. He would have been seen as a greater negotiator because he got me to reduce my commission. On average, agents are reducing their commission 1/4 to 1/2 of a point, which that's significant when you're talking about a $650,000 sale, which is what this one was. So instead, I was able to negotiate and get a buyer ready to the table and market their home and do open houses and do all the work that it takes to get him the value for this home. And in the end, I only had to chip in $500 just because I used script number 1. So I love script number 1 for that. If you guys want to jot that down or take a picture, that's a great one that I use all the time. Script number 2, as I'm going through these, and I know I'm going through fairly fast, but we have 8 scripts that I want to share with you. And I don't know if I'm going to have time to do all of them, but I like this one because it begs the question. It kind of builds more trust. So if you get really good at script number 2, you're going to build a lot of trust with that client. You know, so it's like Shannon asking me, will you reduce your commission, Rochelle? And I would go back to her, and it has to be very much, memorized. So you can't just read it. You have to actually have this internalized. You know, if I were you, Shan, I would probably be asking the same question, especially with the October change that happened for all of the MLS and all of the brokerages that are in our area. And when I really think about it, I'm sure you will realize that commission is really a marketing tool. What I mean by this is when you offer a reasonable rate of commission, it incentivizes me to work overtime and to work and to try to find off-market deals and to spend more money in marketing the property, to market and expose it if I was using that for the seller. But you can use some of these key things of how you earn your commission. You can even use some of the things we talked about in the buyer consultation, the things that you will do to earn your commission. You can replace some of my verbiage here. But when you think about it, Shannon, I'm sure you'll realize that you are really not paying anything today, or you're really not, unless I'm able to negotiate a contract and we're able to find you a property. Commission is really a marketing carrot. When the offer comes to the table or when we're negotiating and we're trying to make a decision on whether to accept, the seller's counter proposal, let's put the proper incentive out there and let's attract the traffic we need. Sorry, Shan. These are some good things that I've used in the past, and you could probably take script 2 and kind of rework it depending on if you're working with a buyer or if you're working with a seller in negotiating commission. If somebody says, Rochelle, will you, take less on the buyer agency agreement that you have here? You can use script number 2. You may just have to take out some of the listing related statements that are here in script number 2. Go to script number 3. Oh, this is a good one. This one's good, and we've used this one a lot in the past few years when we're working with other online or discount companies. You guys saw even on our Facebook group, our closed group, that we have debated another company. You guys know who I'm talking about if you're participating on the closed group. But you're talking about, I know you will be able to find discount or cut rate agents who will do it for less. They're out there. In fact, there's a couple big ones in our area. You guys know who I'm talking about. It's best if you don't bring up their names. It does not serve us well. So you can basically label them or market them with this label. Call them discount or cut rate agents who will do things for less. That is the best way to basically say what you want to say without using any names. It does not serve you well if you use their names. And I often have to catch myself because you want to use the name in the worst way because they've trying to do things for less, and that's not our way at Best Choice Realty. So go with this and get this under your wraps. I know you will be able to find discount or cut rate agents who will do things for less, but what they are not going to do for you is they're not going to offer A, B, and C. Or if they do, they're doing it in such a way that is not in your best interest. If they're going to work on such a thin margin, they're going to have to cut everything they can to be able to make the type of commissions that they're going to need to bring into their company. One of the biggest reasons most homes do not sell in our area is the ineffective marketing and the lack of experience at these discount or cut rate agents put into putting their home on the market. And we've seen that in Bellevue, we've seen that in Issaquah, we've seen that in the downtown area of Seattle, that these types of discount or cut rate type of incentives don't work well for sellers. So that's basically, ultimately it may cost you more to sell, and you might sell for a lot less by using one of these discount or cut rate agents. So that's kind of in essence what script number 3 is all about. And again, this script is meant to give you some pointers. You really want to kind of internalize some of this, practice them with your team leader or with a partner or with another Best Choice Realty broker. But our best or our top agents know how to handle these scripts, and they know how to handle these types of objections when they are asked to cut their commission. This is another idea. We can skip number 4, but it is another one where it talks about commissions. When you think about it, builders often offer larger commissions and bonuses to agents. This is as the market starts to turn, where if they start asking you to cut your commission and it's a buyer's market, this would be areas like, say, down, gosh, we even heard of some Centralia homes getting multiple offers. But I'm talking about some areas where you see the market, it is a buyer's market, where it's not a seller's market, where there's not multiple offers, and the seller's coming to you thinking it's like, it's a seller's market when it's really not, and they're asking you to cut your commission. This would be an example. We have a listing right now in DuPont for like luxury kind of price point. And it would be like that agent coming to our broker saying, will you cut your commission? And this would be a way to handle that type of commission rate. When you think about it, as we start to move into a buyer's market, which we are arriving, and this would be in that DuPont area, builders will come into the space, buy up land, and offer larger commissions or even bonuses to agents, because those incentives will drive quality buyers to their home. And those buyers may be going to those new construction home sites and not coming to your home. And so I would hate for you guys to run the risk by discounting my commission or the buyer's agent commission, and underestimating the power that these agents will have to sway them to their properties over ours. What I can say is that we want to look at what's going on in the general area and attract the best or the highest caliber buyer agents and their buyers, so we can maximize your exposure in DuPont. That would be how I would handle that type of situation with a luxury buyer or luxury seller who's wanting to, take part of your commission, if you will, or not having to pay you as much. Script number 5, Shannon. Script number 5. I like the intro on this one, where you just kind of let it absorb, right? Where they say, Rochelle, will you reduce your commission? You know what? That's a great question. It gives you time to kind of just brace yourself. And then you can pause. The pause is a very powerful tool in negotiation. And you could just say, it doesn't say I work faux. I mean, that's like kind of gangster talk. Typo, I apologize for that. I work for 3% on the listing side. You just say that straight up. That's a great question. I use this on the phone. So somebody called me, we had a conversation, and it was actually, it was my brother-in-law's neighbor, and I listed their home in Federal Way, and it was a very challenging situation. They have since called me about a property in Idaho that they're thinking about buying. And they're like, Rochelle, I wish you were our real estate broker in Idaho, because our agent in Idaho doesn't even know how to negotiate. Because I was firm with them. I said, just on the phone, he called me. He's ex-Boeing, he's retired. He wanted to reap as much as he possibly could when he sold his home. He was interviewing other people. I said, that's a great question. And I had this great pause where almost he was like, are you still there? Or let me get my wife on the phone. It was like kind of that uncomfortable pause. And I said, no, I'm still here. I work for 3% on the listing side. And he was like, oh, well, we're interviewing people that do not charge 3%. And I said, you know what? I think it's important for you to meet with me, and then we can look at your home to determine how and will I be able to adjust my commission, because we have to pay the buyer's agent, and there also are some fees that have to be paid when I represent you on the sell side. So when I go meet with you in person, throughout my presentation, I'm sure you'll be impressed that what I offer will be what the percentage is I receive. So we'll go through when we meet in person and break down and show you exactly how the distribution of funds and what I will do to help you sell your home for the highest amount possible. And I think what you're going to find is that, you don't pay my broker, you don't pay my taxes, you don't pay my staff, and the service that you are going to receive by me working for 3%, I think you will see that I'm worth the 3%. So this is something that you really, if you're a newer broker, you got to be really good at script 5. You can't be just trying this out the gate. You've got to be very strong at negotiation before you employ script number 5. But it works, and it worked beautifully, and we're still getting residual from that relationship of my brother-in-law's neighbor. Pretty much have the neighborhood under my wraps because I have been able to solve their problems and work within some challenges that occurred on that listing. So I'm worth every bit of that 3%. And although Federal Way often is 2.5 versus 3, I brought some data that would show him that most of the homes that sold in the timeline that he wanted were paying the buyer's agent a 3%, and I could make the assumption that their brokerage also needed to get paid. And it could be anywhere from 2.5 to 3%. But I showed my worth and my value, and he signed. So there was no issue there. Let's go to script number 6. Sorry about the typo. I had to hurry and type this up. There are so many desperate agents out there. So you do have to you don't want to go with script number 6 right off the bat. You want to understand where you're coming from. There are a lot of desperate agents out there right now in the October, November market. And when you think about it, if that worked, if reducing the commission or working with a discount company, everyone would do it. So this is kind of another you have to be very confident. You have to know, you have to be on your A game when you're using script number 5 or 6. So I would really try to get comfortable with 1, 2, 3, and 4 before you play with number 5 and 6. But it works. This one's a beautiful one too. Yet as you look around the market, the discount brokerages or the cut rate brokerages that are out there only really represent a percentage of the listings that are taken. And many of those listings expire. You know the saying, you get what you pay for. And when you select me or when you select my team, I think you will be impressed at what you get for the price that we offer. Very simply done. Again, you can really internalize this and practice this one. And if it's done right, it's a very, very compelling script that works well with many situations. Okay, number 7. This one you have to have a bit of humor. So this one, script number 7, you have to have a pretty fun-loving personality. Somebody that's more of an extrovert would do well with the script number 7. And again, somebody that likes to play with humor, this script number 7 works really well. I don't tend to be, my clientele doesn't tend to see me as a funny person, but I have actually, I probably tried this once or twice, but I have heard of other top producers on the West Coast. They've used script number 7 and we've practiced it. And I was like, that's good. The way they kind of weave it into their conversation, it's really good. On script number 7, when they get that objection, hey, Rochelle, will you reduce your commission? You would basically, in essence, say, I'm curious, how long did it take you to beat up the last person you interviewed to cut their commission? And you have to have the right tonality for script number 7 to come off right. I can't do it as well as some of the other brokers. Hopefully, if you try it, you've done it enough where you have the confidence to be able to pull script number 7 off. So I wonder how aggressive they will be when it comes to fighting for your money. I have used some of the verbiage in my dialogue, but I haven't point blank just asked them a follow-up question, which is pretty good if you can get the tone right. But I have used some of this stuff. I mean, when you really think about it, the real sense of having just demonstrated that they're not a strong negotiator, you really want to kind of put that, are they going to be aggressive? How long it take you to beat them up before they agree to cut their commission? I know Kay Kramer's probably used that before in her past. There are some other experienced brokers who have had some good fun with script number 7. And again, it's just a way of using the right words at the right timing, and again, having the right tone to demonstrate this script number 7 really works. I'm not willing to accept the reduced amount. Here is my presentation. I think what you'll do is I'm going to earn my commission. Something like that would work well with script number 7. Script number 8, it's my last one, and I'm just up on the timeline here. Script number 8, I don't give discounts because of all the things I do to sell the property at the highest price. What I will do is what I did for you before. So this script number 8, you can make a note of it when you get it. Script number 8 is something that you would do. Somebody has always made the claim, Rochelle, you worked with me before. You know, you helped my husband buy his house. I'm working now with the wife. This is a great script. I don't give discounts because of all the things that I do to sell the property. Just plain and simple. I mean, what can they say? Oh, shoot, you know. What I will do is what I did for your husband, or what I will do is what I did for your wife, or what I will do is what I did for the neighbor next door. I will represent you at the highest level. I will fight for you and defend your property's value and get you the highest price possible in a market that's changing. I will leave no stone left unturned until I find the right buyer and ensure a smooth closing. I include staging. I include high-end photography. And then you move on to a different subject. So I like to end with this script because a lot of you dwell too much on this issue. And once you can see the body language, you can see that they're internalizing what you're saying and they're not closing up their book and saying, thank you, you can exit my property now. They're still having a conversation. You need to move on to a different subject. Now let's talk about how we're going to market your home. Now let's talk about what I'm going to do to stage your home. Now let's talk about something else. You got to move away from the price because you've basically told them no. Just like if a child said, you know, can I have a piece of candy? It's no different. You know, you're telling them no, and human beings need to hear the word no. But you need to move on and you need to come up with something else. So just like a toddler, you need to give them something else to move on to. Do the same thing in negotiation when you're negotiating your commission. You got to change the subject and move on, especially if you've already dealt with the objection and dealt with it in this type of manner, which is you told them no, but you're also providing value. You're going to tell them what you are going to do, what I will do. So that part of the script is super important. What I will do is what I did for you before. I will represent you. What are you going to do, or what did you do for that significant other? And I think that they'll sign on the agreement. Most of them do. In fact, very rarely do they not sign with you. Okay, thank you for your time. Hopefully this was helpful. What I can do is I can send this all to you if you want to send me a quick email. I'll make a few adjustments to the typos. But again, this is not meant for you guys to just verbatim say. It's giving you some reference points and maybe some verbiage that you didn't have before. If you liked it, please give me some feedback. If you have comments, please share that with me. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself. And I love to learn from those of you who are in the field more than I am. But a lot of this comes from just hearing and listening to a lot of top producers and coaching people on the West Coast when they have questions about commission and how they handle it. So hopefully this was helpful, and good luck out there. We'll talk to you next Monday. We're getting into the nitty-gritty of the contract, so be prepared for that. Come with your questions, and hopefully Shannon's been able to answer a lot of your questions tonight. If not, I'll be happy to stay on the line if you have questions specifically about a situation you're dealing with. Talk to you soon.